Hello everyone, and welcome to the Daily HUD, where we give you the latest esports news. I'm Sierra, and this is
I'm Dom.
Dom, right.
It's only been 2 weeks. You're already struggling with the name. Oof, but that's okay. I understand with everything that happened in Game of Thrones last night. We're a little out of our minds. But hey, in our coverage today, we're going to be taking a look at the finale of the LEC and the LCS Spring Split, Week 2 of the Overwatch League. We're also taking a look at the results for the most recent week of the European League for Rainbow Six, previewing the North American League of Rainbow Six, Rocket League Week 2, Fortnite news, Starcraft, and for our final coverage, the Blast Pro Series in Miami, which I actually got a chance to attend this past Saturday. However, even with all of that, there's still some esports we may not have been covering. So if there's anything we've missed, let us know in the comments below, and we'd be happy to cover that in the future.
Yeah, we also have a Twitch site as well, a channel there. So be sure to give us comments, send us your videos.
Yeah, we'll be streaming some old footage on that relatively soon. We'll get that up and running. Again, that's going to be at twitch.tv/esports_channel, where we're going to be live streaming roundtables, discussions, our previous shows, and that'll be getting started soon. And for our final announcement, before we get into the news, we're also going to be doing timestamps down below. So do you not care about League of Legends? Do you not care about Overwatch? Well, just scroll on down into that description and give it a click to skip to whatever game you are most excited about.
This past weekend, the League of Legends European scene has concluded their spring split, and we've got a lot of action for you. Starting off the semifinals, Fnatic and Origin took the stage. Fnatic were looking to get back on top to win their championship that they've sought so long for, and Origin were looking for a revenge match against G2. At the start of Game 1, the momentum for both teams can be felt all through the venue. In Champ Select, Fnatic and Origin had some interesting picks, with Kindred and Sona on Fnatic's side and Karthus and Blitzcrank on the side of Origin. Without hesitation, the match got underway with a jungle invade. Origin managed to get first blood off Fnatic's Sion and took a quick lead. You know, I really had my money on Fnatic for this one.
Well, it's good.
At the 12-minute mark, it showed Origin still had the lead with a huge Blitzcrank hook on Fnatic's Kindred on the Rift, Herald side of the river. That play turned into a team fight that Fnatic were confident on winning, but unfortunately for them, despite picking off 2 OG members, Fnatic lost 4 members and inevitably lost the fight. Oh, unfortunately. At the 27-minute mark, Origin kept their lead against Fnatic and pushed up on the top side of the base and were engaged on by Fnatic. Though no casualties came out on either side, Origin were able to hold off the engage and push Fnatic back, taking the top side inhibitor. After the mid-game went back and forth, Origin went for one final push and pushed the enemy's exposed Nexus. A final fight broke out between Fnatic. They did everything they could to hold off the attack, but they just didn't have the damage to do so. Origin took Game 1 at 32 minutes with an 11-8 score.
Now, with Game 1 now under Origin's belt, the Fnatic team was wondering whether or not their composition needed to change for a better, perhaps hopefully more damaging playstyle. Of course, going into Game 2, Fnatic kept most of the same composition, but brought out a little bit more engagement and damage that they could have needed, with their own Jarvan and Skarner and Ryze pickups, so plenty of pick and engage. However, Origin also changed up their composition towards a disengaged backline killer with Annie, Twitch, Lissandra. As an ex-Annie main, love seeing those Annies, but hey, in the early game, it was Origin that made the first move on Bwipo and secured the first blood, but Fnatic fought back with a gank of their own and took down Cold from Origin for a 1-to-1 trade. Now, at the 7-minute mark, both teams became bolder as time went on. A huge Origin gank in the bot lane initiated a fight with Hylissang being taken down, but Origin didn't count on the level 6 Rek'Sai coming in from behind. The unfortunate gank cost Mithy his life, but they were able to get Broxah for a 2-to-1 trade overall. Now at the 17-minute mark, a mid lane fight broke out during a siege, and Fnatic were able to start the fight off strong, taking down Patrick, but Nukeduck was able to bring it back and took down Hylissang and Bwipo, forcing them back to lick their wounds. For the entire game, Fnatic has had Origin's number while they were pushing the mid lane. They took down the inhibitors and moved down towards the bottom lane, but a fight broke out again and turned sour on Fnatic soon after, and they were forced to back off. At the 30-minute mark, the tide had officially turned, with Fnatic being unable to close out in time. Origin was able to rally back with some of that late-game scaling into a deciding team fight to take their own lead in this game too. With the momentum now shifted towards Origin at the 36-minute mark, Origin put the final nail in the coffin with one last team fight to close out the game, with a 23-11 scoreline putting Fnatic on game point in this series. So far, Origin lead 2-0.
With Fnatic now on a do-or-die territory, it was time to take the old comfort picks back into the game. You remember those? In Champ Select, Reckless was put on Vayne with Nemesis and Lissandra, and Halising on Pyke. For the few minutes, it was quiet for both teams until the bottom lane Fnatic dive got Reckless the first blood. Later on, at the 8-minute mark, a River team fight breaks out to have Fnatic win with a 2-0 kill and secured Mountain Drake. Close to the 14-minute mark, Origin and Fnatic had a big scuffle down in the bot lane, with Whippo eliminating Nuke Duck and Cold with the Alfiri being executed under tower. For the entire match, Fnatic has shown how truly strong they are, and at the 25-minute mark, one big fight decided the entire match and put Fnatic on the board. They managed to rout the Origin team and win the match with a 16-4 score and a 2-1 series points.
Yeah, now Fnatic finally starting to get a little bit of momentum, but is it too much this late? Now they had hope, but nothing has really changed for them. While they did get the one win, it's still do-or-die territory. Now Fnatic has had to bring out just about everything they have in order to go for the reverse sweep and try to get the reset. In the fourth match of the series, still match point, Origin has officially brought out their own comfort picks with Silas, Ashe, and Tahm Kench. Fnatic stuck with their former pick of Pyke and Lissandra with Reckless on Kai'Sa, that late game scaling champion. In just the first 2 minutes of the game, Fnatic makes the first move and rout the Origin top lane. For a while, the game stayed at a stalemate until the 18-minute mark when a mid-lane teamfight broke out in an engage made by Fnatic. And even though they came in strong into the fight, eliminating 2 members of Origin, Patrick was able to eliminate 2 of Fnatic's own members with the help of Nuke Duck, killing their own third. After the mid lane fight, the 2 teams met in the topside jungle. With ease, Origin brought the fight to Fnatic, and they stepped down one bit, the fight ending with Fnatic losing their own 2 players for 0. After multiple base sieges on Fnatic, Origin sealed their fate at 33 minutes. Mark all of the Fnatic members were eliminated and the Nexus destroyed, finishing the series at a 3-1 scoreline and ending Fnatic's championship dream run. As a result, Origin was set to face G2 in the finals on Sunday.
Wow, that's only the first of the semifinals, and I'm already feeling exhausted. But now that Origin defeated Fnatic and is meeting G2 in the finals for a revenge match, and well, the matches were exactly what we expected.
For the start of the series, the first game's champion select was pretty odd in terms of both comfort and flexible picks, with Origin bringing out a Hecarim and Nocturne combo with Galio and Ryze. G2, on the other hand, decided to open up with a Sona Taric along with Olaf Aurelia. It was something new to the scene after a bit of the meta that we expected, and it was quite different to watch. At the start of the game, it was G2 who managed to take first blood from Origin's top lane, but soon after, Origin fired back with a kill of their own onto Caps.
To close out the 14-minute mark, the Dragon Siege turns into a full-out brawl with both teams going at it without stopping. OG suffered the first 2 casualties, but were able to come back in the fight, taking down 4 members of G2 before securing the Mountain Drake. Even with G2's unfortunate loss in the last team fight, the match was pretty much decided when a 28-minute Baron fight came into play and they were able to hold the Origin team from stealing the Baron and took down 3 of their members. In the final fight of the match, G2 kept their lead and took out all members of Origin in a swift and clean fight to close out the game with a 15-8 score and a 1-0 start of the series.
Now, with Game 1 on G2's side, Origin didn't take the loss too hard. They bounced back with a new strategy and were hoping to get on the board themselves in this series. During the second champion select, G2 Esports landed on some comfort picks, feeling pretty confident from their last match. Origin, however, had a few picks that were more in line with meta than their own comfort, with their Cannon, Sona, and Taric pick. However, they did flex themselves a good old-fashioned Yasuo, debating whether or not they were going to go for the kills or perhaps feed on the other side. But hey, in the start of the matchup, it was G2 who picked up first blood and started off with an early lead. Now, as G2 held off Origin and pushed them back with a Rift Herald, they sieged out mid and took out 2 Origin members with perks on a rampage. At the 24-minute mark, G2 sealed the deal and took Game 2 of the series, after eliminating all members of Origin with a grand total of 22-7 as a scoreline, a much more convincing Game 2, and putting themselves up 2-0 and putting Origin on match point.
With Origin at match point now, the anxiety and desperation finally hit the team, and they were now looking for a way to bring back the series.
In the champion select for Game 3, Origin brought out their own power picks with Draven and Akali alongside a Galio support. G2 answered back with Ryze, Jarvan, and Jace. However, it was clear that Origin wasn't going to hold back any further, and they needed a win to come back from this huge deficit. Ultimately, it was Origin who made the first move on taking first blood, but unfortunately for them, that'd be the last aggressive move that they would make towards G2, and they were pushed back with a 2-kill advantage on G2's side.
At the 9-minute mark, the bot lane tried to bring the gold lead with a few kills. A hard tower dive engage was initiated by Origin. They managed to snag 1 kill, but the bot duo was unfortunately wiped out by G2's good positioning. Right on G2. At the 16-minute mark, G2 continued their domination towards Origin and sieged mid lane with a Rift Herald, a sneaky perk, Smelted Patrick, before the fight even started. G2 continued to push OG back into Nexus with Shelly and were able to take down 1 Nexus tower, but they had to back up to regroup for the final push. Finally, at the 18-minute mark, it was all over for Origin as G2 moved down the enemy base, and despite Origin's brave attempts to stop the Nexus siege, G2 became the LEC champions with a 19-6 score and also a 3-0 series score.
Big congratulations, G2. But hey, with G2 concluding the LEC as champions, G2 will now represent Europe at MSI alongside Fnatic and Origin at Rift Rivals to take on North America. But let's take a break from League of Legends and cover the rest of our games before we head back onto the Rift to take a look at the LCS Finals that happened on Saturday as well.
Okay, this Friday we covered the first day of week 2, and now that the weekend is over in stage 2, it's time to look into the standings and results so far. First match on Friday, the LA Valiants took on the Atlanta Reign, and the results will make Dom very happy.
Yes, finally some Los Angeles wins. Of course, this is the Overwatch League. Of course, so far in this season, the LA Valiants look like they got their wings clipped pretty hard, and though they tried pretty hard to get on board, it just didn't quite work out for them. Luckily though, they managed to show that they can come back, and though it wasn't the smoothest set compared to the LA Gladiator counterparts, this is one step closer to LA Valiants turning the tides, with Los Angeles defeating Atlanta with a 3-2 score. And big congratulations to the Valiants finally taking a win. But for the next, we've got to look at Boston Uprising taking a win off of Hangzhou Sparks. With both teams coming in strong, it would be a close set in this matchup. The Boston Uprising were trying to keep their stage 2 win streak kicking, but ultimately it was the Hangzhou Sparks that kicked them to the curb. In this game, we got to see a lot of different picks coming out, separating us from that GOAT composition. We were led to believe that Boston was going to close this game out, and well, they couldn't quite close out the the series, though. The Hangzhou Sparks ended up defeating Boston with a 3-2 scoreline. In our final match of the day, the Guangzhou Charge took on the San Francisco Shock, and judging by the fact that one of these teams was a runner-up from the last playoff finals, the results weren't exactly a surprise. Like last week in their match against the Charge, it was no different to see them dominating in a clear-cut fashion. No other words can describe this team or even the set itself, as the Shock ended up defeating the Charge in a clean-cut 4-0 victory.
With day 2 of week 2 under our belts, it's time to move on to day 3, where most of the action really took place. In the first match of Saturday, well, it was technically Friday, but we've already passed 12 anyways. We're over here in Miami, so that's the way time works. The Chengdu Hunters faced off against their Chinese counterparts, the Shanghai Dragons. There's not much to say for this match other than the Shanghai Dragon once again had their number, even though the Chengdu were able to take a game off the Shanghai Dragon, but it wasn't enough. Shanghai Dragon defeated the Hunters with a 3-1 score. Wow.
Yes, always good to see the Chinese teams competing against each other. But hey, the official first match of the day took to a match that even our dear old Robin enjoyed, with London Spitfire taking on the Philadelphia Fusion. The Spitfire looked to get revenge from an early Stage 1 loss against the Fusion, and now a lot can be said about this set, but these two teams were looking to get back to the way that they were in 2018, with the Spitfire managing to look closer and similar to that moment, more so than the Fusion. It was interesting to see these two teams go back and forth, but ultimately, the London Spitfire took the set with a 2-1 victory.
Congratulations, London. The champions of Stage 1 took on the Houston Outlaws, and they were looking to keep their winning streak going, but we couldn't count on the Outlaws just yet. It's been said that you shouldn't run a 3 comp against the Titans, and it worked out for the first game with the Outlaws catching the Titans by surprise. But of course, the Vancouver Titans weren't a team to be messed with, and they showed that they could overcome any comp thrown their way. The Vancouver Titans defeated the Outlaws with a 3-1 victory. Vancouver, right on, not bad. So West Coast, coming in strong.
Still a very powerful team, but hey, in the next match, the Dallas Fuel took on Toronto Defiant, and this was an exciting match for us, as we have been waiting to see the Dallas Fuel finally get a chance to compete. Now, the Dallas Fuel has had a lot more time than anyone else to prepare for Stage 2, and in their Stage 2 debut, they showed us and decided to show us what they've got, and hopefully to demonstrate that the time off was what they needed. Ultimately, they didn't disappoint. The Defiant team could not stop the raging Fuel, and unfortunately lost their set to a 4-0 defeat in favor of Dallas.
In the final match for Saturday, the Guangzhou Charge were looking to end their map losing streak, and the LA Gladiators stopped them in their tracks. The LA Gladiators showed the Charge why they were a better team, and it was clear for the first 2 map losses that a win was not in their grasp, let alone their sight. The Gladiators had managed to just steamroll through and took the set with a 4-0 score.
Yes, get those Los Angeles teams! Now, for the final day of Week 2, Sunday was meant to get the final teams together to battle it out for some wins. But like yesterday, the Dallas Fuel were hoping to keep their momentum after their Game 1 win on that Saturday, especially against Paris Eternal. The Dallas Fuel put their new look to the test and challenged the Paris Eternal to an all-out brawl. But unlike yesterday, this wasn't as clean a win for the Dallas team. Eternal were able to tie a match and even take a game off of them, but ultimately it wasn't enough in the series, with the Dallas Fuel defeating Paris in an overall 2-1 scoreline.
In the second match of Sunday, Atlanta Reign and Washington Justice met on the battlefield to see who will gain a spike of momentum. Washington came into this match trying to get their first win in Stage 2, and as much as they tried, Atlanta was a little too strong for them. They were overpowered by Atlanta, and they were a lot stronger of a team in this match. Overall, the Atlanta team were able to chalk a victory into their record with a 3-1 score.
Now for the quote-unquote hometown matchup, the Florida Mayhem took on New York Excelsior. And like everyone here in the Esports channel, perhaps myself included as the LA fan, we all knew how this Florida match would turn out. Now, the first words that can describe what New York is doing, now that they've got their near perfect streak and haven't dropped a single map at all to any team, they've had a single tie in their overall season, and now they find themselves with a 4-0 victory. The one team we predict to give these guys a challenge is the Vancouver Titans. Florida Mayhem didn't stand a chance.
Aw, Florida. Well, that's okay. With the final match of week 2, the two LA teams went head-to-head surprisingly. The LA team did pretty well in this match, not surprisingly for Dom, of course.
It was tough to choose who to root for when it's the two LA teams going against each other. But hey, the Valiants were on a mission to prove that they were the better team, and the Gladiators pretty effectively brushed them off, which means that we all got a match to sleep on. The Valiants fought hard and actually did manage to take a game off the Gladiators, which is a good sign, taking one to a tie, but ultimately, I think as we all expected, Gladiators ended up taking it with a 2-1 victory. Now that's all of the matches for Stage 2 so far. The Overwatch League will return later this week in Week 3, and as the days go by, we're going to get a chance to preview some of those additional matchups, but now it's time to turn our attention to our next esport event that happened over the weekend.
Rainbow Six.
Right on.
The Rainbow Six Siege Pro League returned to Europe this week with a lot of easy wins and ties going into the first match. Okay, so in the first match, Team Empire took on G2 with both teams looking strong and ready to bring the fight. They both fought their hardest to tie up the series at a 6-6. Not bad.
In the second match of the day, Chaos went up against Lestream Esports. With Lestream looking to stock up a win in their own pockets, they currently underestimated Chaos, only taking 2 games in the entire set. Chaos countered this and went for a full 7-game win.
And for the final match of the day, Team Secret set to take on Penta Esports. With both teams showing potential in showing who can take this set, it was Team Secret that fell extremely short, only to take 1 game off Penta Esports. The set ended with a 7-1 score.
Today, April 15th, North America goes at it again with Team Rogue challenging Rise Nation. Accelerate GG will take on SSG, and Evil Geniuses will face off against Team Reciprocity. And that's it for our Rainbow Six action.
Phew! Well done. Now that I know we need to move on to League of Legends coverage, but I think I should spice things up a little bit instead of going through each game one by one. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a good idea. What do you got for me?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you some questions about the LCS. Now that Team Liquid is winning based on a reverse sweep, what is your opinion of that? Is that a true win?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the fact that they were down 2 games against TSM and came back, I think the fact that we saw TSM compete at all is compelling. Because coming into this, Team Liquid were the heavy favorites, and there was always the conversation, Bjergsen versus Doublelift. Bjergsen has 5 championship wins, Doublelift has 5 championship wins. This would be the 6th for either of them, with Bjergsen on TSM and Doublelift on Team Solo Mid. And that gets to the question, who is the greatest of all time?
They seem pretty neck and neck.
We might have an answer with Team Liquid and Doublelift having won, again, with that reverse sweep.
And so who is the best team in North America?
Well, very clearly Team Liquid. They played better on the day and were able to take the series overall. And with that, they will advance towards MSI. The performance still looks fantastic.
And what are you expecting to see at MSI?
It should be a lot of fun. I think we can put it that way. We're getting the best teams from every region getting the chance to go and compete at MSI relatively soon. I believe that's happening in May. My attention, though, coming from the LPL, the former World Championship region is going to be down there, though SKT do look to be in unusual form coming into this event as well. All in all, it's going to be a fun tournament. And while I can talk about the LCS all day, tragically we do have to move on. With the conclusion of the LCS and the LEC, the next time we're going to get the chance to see these teams compete will be on at MSI, as we were just talking about. That's on May 1st, in which each team will be representing their region as the #1 seed. The Midseason Invitational brings the best. Now, we will get a chance to see some of those second and third place teams compete at Rift Rivals. That's happening on June 24th. And again, we can't wait to see some more of those regional rivalries clash once again. But it's time for us to move our attention towards Counter-Strike as the Blast Pro Miami kicked off this past Friday and opened up with a couple of fun games. On Saturday, I actually got the chance to attend the event myself and witness some of the high energy of the arena. Leading up to the finals, the event went largely as expected. Coming into the event, there was no question that Astralis was the team to beat, but Team Liquid were on a mission in this event, going 3-0 leading up to their match against Astralis, what should have been the #1 team. However, Astralis already showed some unexpected weakness, dropping a game against MIBR, the Brazilian squad, and not just dropping a game, but dropping it 16-2 against MIBR. The Brazilian squad dropped very early in the Blast Pro Series Sao Paulo, in which they didn't take a single win, but here in Miami, they seem to have found their stride, going 2-1-1 until their final match of the round robin against Team Liquid, who had just secured their spot in the grand finals by defeating Astralis, giving them their second win. Now, the final round robin showed us a battle for second place with the last spot in the final, with MIBR, FaZe, and Astralis all in the running. The big match everyone had their eyes on, though, was Team Liquid, the #1 seed, going into the finals, challenging MIBR, who had suddenly found all of this new momentum. The event was absolutely fantastic. Of course, we'll get into the results of that round 5 and the finals a little bit later, as we do have some very exciting footage to show for the event as a whole. For now, though, that's going to be our coverage for CSGO. Ultimately, spoiler alert, it was, in fact, FaZe Clan who ended up winning the grand finals overall. But now it's time to turn our attention towards Fortnite.
The Fortnite World Cup has had its first online open this week. You can find that on Twitch TV/Fortnite. They covered the whole event live, and we saw 19 players qualify for the World Cup finals later this year. One from Brazil, we have someone from Asia, a team from Asia, Oceania, and 8 from Europe, not surprising there. 2 from North America West, and then 6 in North America East. That's right, East Coast, doing a great job. A few technical hiccups here and there. We saw a pretty close, compelling first week of the event. Again, what's compelling about the event is that anyone can qualify. All you have to do is be above a rank 6, and you too can compete in any of the 9 remaining opens. While the tournament doesn't follow a standard tournament style format in which players compete against each other on a tournament realm or through a rotating season, perhaps this speaks to the appeal of Fortnite in the first place, in that anyone can drop in and play at any time and participate, whereas PUBG and Apex Legends have had much more of a team-oriented aspect. It seems as if Epic Games wants to cement Fortnite as a game that anyone can succeed at, even at the highest level. Though we have to wonder if it is because of the youth of the game or a necessary format of the drop-in structure that we may have been missing some of the more in-depth narratives and storylines for our top players. Regardless, the ability of the format and the ability to view any game from your own client made it possible for anyone to tune in and perhaps even get into a game with someone competing to join that final countdown to qualify for the World Finals.
Yeah, that event really did kick off. I really enjoyed the studio that they were streaming out of as well. Absolutely cool to see. But moving on towards our final coverage of the day, we now turn our attention towards Starcraft 2, in which the GSL Codes Grand Finals took place last night between Maru, the current 3-time reigning champion of 2018, and Classic, fighting his way to his first final in nearly 5 years. This final was to prove to be a swan song for Classic, as he seems to be nearing the end of his career, but the arena was sold out, and they saved just as many cheers for him as they did for the reigning champion of Maru. Ultimately, Maru, the reigning champion, did win the series with a 4-2 scoreline, some very, very convincing play overall, though Classic did give him a very solid run for his money. And of course, tomorrow we'll get a chance to have a more in-depth look at this series overall, because it was actually quite exciting to watch how the underdog of Classic prepared for this matchup against the the 3-time world champion so far. I should say the GSL Code S champion. That said, that's our coverage for StarCraft 2.
Well, there is a lot to go through this weekend, but we don't stop bringing the action. One quick final announcement before we head out. All you Resident Evil fans out there, the Resident 2 weekly challenges have officially reset. If you're still one of the 100 people who still have the perfect streak, now is your chance to keep that streak going. And if for those 2 who haven't done any challenges yet, it's still not too late to join. You can head over to theresidentevil.net and sign up and have your play data recorded, and you start cashing in those gold and platinum medals. Okay, everybody, that's it for today's coverage on the Daily HUD. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest update in esports. Once again, I'm Sierra.
And I'm Dom, and on behalf of myself and the entire channel, thank you so very much for watching. If you've got any advice, feedback, let us know in the comments below. Heck, we'll even take your blooper reels and highlights, drop that down into the link in the description, info@esportschannel.com. But hey, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, good night, GG.
GG.